As wonderful as falling in love is, that feeling does not last forever. And we need to make an effort to develop the kinds of habits in marriage that are most likely to lead to happiness. Pope Benedict XVI once made this point during his remarks at one of the World Meeting of Families. I often think of the wedding feast of Cana. The first wine is very fine. This is falling in love. But it does not last until the end. A second wine has to come later. It has to ferment and grow, to mature. The definitive love that can truly become this second wine is more wonderful still. It is better than the first wine. And this is what we must seek.
How do we find this second wine, this happiness in marriage, that is even better than the first wine of falling in love? In this segment, we're going to look at 4 habits of happiness that researchers have found will enable us to enjoy this second wine that is more wonderful still. Dr. John Gottman has been researching relationships for over 40 years. It started in the 60s when he and other social scientists were trying to make sense of the skyrocketing divorce rate during that decade. His research on how relationships could be repaired after conflict led him to realize that what was most important was how couples maintained their friendship, intimacy, and emotional connection in their everyday lives together. One of the things that these researchers found was how crucial it is for spouses to express admiration for each other on a regular basis.
So the first habit of happiness is praising our spouse. Giving praise in ways that are specific and sincere communicates that we regard him or her as an invaluable gift. For example, a wife might say to her husband, "Honey, I was amazed at how calm you remained when that person provoked you. I really admire that about you." Or a husband might say to his wife, "I love the way that you can be present to people who are suffering and just listen to them." All of us appreciate receiving a sincere compliment that comes from the heart. A word of affirmation that recognizes a talent we have, admires something good we have done, or simply acknowledges that our very existence itself is an incredible gift. When our spouse who knows all our weaknesses can praise us, it means so much, and it makes us want to become even better.
Why I like to praise Mel. I praise him with his homilies when they're good, and I let him know when they need work. And I also let him know when you left the church wondering. You need to, your next sermon, you need to kind of tie that in and let them know, give them, answer that, So.
I think that the person whose opinion I value more than anyone else is sitting right next to me, and so when I do things, whether it's something that happened at work or it's something that happened at church or something that I'm doing in my personal life, I always want to see that this was something that she approves. Her opinion is important to me, and when she praises me for something, then I feel like, okay, then this is a good thing to do. And when she lets me know that maybe I should do it differently, then I always take that to heart and try to rethink what I'm doing. But I am constantly amazed by the woman that she is, and even now that she's taking some classes in interior design and trying to work on a whole new degree with that. I try to praise her because I'm in amazement that here's another part of her life, a new chapter that it just makes me feel good to see her continuing to grow in that way, and a side of her that I've always known I was there, and I've encouraged her to do that, and to see her actually doing it now, I just want to let her know that keep doing that, and it's just wonderful.
Thank you.
The second habit of happiness is thanking our spouse. There is nothing worse than feeling like the good we try to do for someone we love is taken for granted, neither noticed nor appreciated. Giving thanks from the heart to our spouse communicates to him or her that all the ways in which they express their love for us and for others is appreciated. Dr. James Healy, a husband, father, and longtime marriage and family minister, suggests simple rituals that express gratitude to one another. For example, when it's time to leave in the morning, find each other and give each other a 5-second hug. At the end of the day, when you come back together, do the same thing. The way you say goodbye affects how you feel about your spouse while you're apart. And the way you say hello affects how you feel about him or her while you are together.
When it's time to go to bed, reflect on your day, including your relationship with your spouse, and think about what you are grateful for. Then thank your spouse for something he or she did or said that you might otherwise have taken for granted. For example, a husband might say to his wife, "Honey, thanks for helping me with that project. I really appreciated it." Or a wife might say to her husband, "Thank you for noticing that I was down tonight and asking me what was wrong. It felt good to talk." Sociological research confirms that a habit of gratitude has one of the strongest correlations to happiness. We are not grateful because we are happy. We are happy because we are grateful.
Always working at being better at thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for again the little things, doing the dishes or sweeping. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
The more I feel like each of us feels loved by the other and just needed by each other, the more we can foster our love and friendship and trust and marriage in general. So I think that's key.
But gratitude for just the effort put forth, I think, even if it doesn't seem like I don't know how to put this.
Yeah, like you said before, like even if there's a shortcoming or failure, but you know that they work so hard.
But I know that you're really trying your
right.
best to.
Yeah, if I fail an exam
and just being grateful for the other person being in your life and the joy that they bring, I think is really important. Just. I think just having a general disposition of every day being able to wake up and just to yourself even just acknowledge how grateful you are to have the other in your life. It just helps you throughout the day then foster that love. And even if we're going through a hard time or fighting or something, I think I still wake up every morning and I'm grateful that God has placed Carson in my life.
Right. And that's kind of the definition of marriage for us in the Catholic Church, is that like we're just there for each other always, and so waking up and being able to have that gratefulness is so key.
There are times when she says thank you for something that I've done, that I just feel a glow that, okay, that was something good. And I will admit that there are times when I need to say thank you more. And she will do things all the time. She'll do things around the house, and sometimes I'll say thank you, and sometimes I forget, and later on I say I should have said something about that. But as we say thank you, sometimes we also try to work on accepting gratitude. That if someone says thank you, don't say, okay, well, what about the garbage, or what about this, or what about that? That we actually say you're welcome, or acknowledge that there was some praise or some thanks that was given, and then actually receive it.
Mm-hmm. They'll do things for me that I know he's doing them just for me, and I know that I understand that as love. Like he'll take out the garbage, or he'll wash the laundry, or he don't fold, but he'll wash the laundry, or he'll wash the dishes, and I know that those are things that he don't have to do, but it's things that he'll do, and because it'll help me.
The third habit of happiness is telling our spouse that we're sorry. No matter how much we love our spouse, there will be many times when we do something we shouldn't have done or say something we shouldn't have said. And what is even more difficult to acknowledge and admit sometimes are all the good things that we fail to do or to say, the so-called sins of omission. When we realize that we have done or said something hurtful to our spouse, or omitted to do or say something which would have been the loving thing in the situation, we should ask for forgiveness. For example, a wife might say to her husband, "I apologize for spending more money than I should have without consulting you, as we agreed." Or a husband might say to his wife, I am sorry that I wasted time on the internet last night instead of helping clean up after dinner.
Sometimes we don't apologize to our beloved because we think that they are more to blame than we are, especially after an argument. Even if you think you are only 5% to blame, take the initiative and apologize for that 5%. Not only will you be doing the right thing, but the other person will likely follow your lead. Also, don't assume that because your spouse doesn't seem to react badly to something you've done or said that you don't really need to apologize. If you are conscious of doing something wrong, apologize for it and do it as soon as possible. The damage that is done while you decide whether to apologize can be worse than the original offense. Pope Francis has encouraged us to adopt the right attitude. Let us learn to acknowledge our mistakes and to ask for forgiveness. Forgive me if today I raised my voice. I'm sorry if I passed without greeting you. Excuse me if I was late. If this week I was very silent. If I spoke too much without ever listening. Excuse me if I forgot. I'm sorry I was angry and I took it out on you. We can say many I'm sorries every day.
And I've found that actually going to Mass is like a really beautiful time for us to put aside all of those things, those feelings, or those that sense of, whatever has been building up in terms of anger, and even just at the sign of peace, it's like a very beautiful moment for us to reconcile and just say, I'm sorry, I should not have said that. And I've found many, many times that we will leave Mass just incredibly happy and reconciled if it was, if it's not a huge thing that needs to be talked through at length. So there are certainly moments in our relationship that have required long and in-depth conversations in which we really have to work through how are we going to deal with this very difficult external reality that we're dealing with right now, because not everything is just, an interior emotion that has been flared up. There are real situations and experiences that we've had that have required a good amount of reflection and discussion. And those really, you have to make time for. You need to schedule time to work through those things and to really express everything that we have to say and to hear each other and listen and repeat back, so this is what you're feeling. And I didn't realize that that's how you thought about that. And we've certainly had bigger moments in our relationship where a longer instance of reconciliation is really required, and a certain amount of processing as well. But I think for the little things, which, as John said, it's often little things that will create a wedge in our connection or our relationship. So often it is just a look or a touch or a simple act of humility that says, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, I love you. A hug will easily kind of reunite us.
Yeah, there are a lot of little tensions that can be resolved just by a vulnerable and authentic, sorry, I was being a jerk. And then, and then we're back on the same page again.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, I think, in communication as far as forgiveness goes. Just, I know on my part, I tend to close in on myself when I'm upset, and sometimes I don't really want to talk about things right away, even if, whether I'm the one who offended Andrew or I'm the one who is offended by Andrew. But just, I think we're really learning to listen to each other and try and understand that, maybe things aren't always as they seem right at first. And that's, at least for me, that's helping me be able to forgive him better and more easily.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that no family except the Holy Family's perfect. Everyone has their hiccups and their bumps in life. And, my parents I come from a divorced family, and my mom's been divorced a few times, and my dad as well. And, I think with those high statistics of divorce in our previous generation, it's almost as if this mentality that if something's broken or it's not working, then you just discard it rather than seeking to find out what the problem is and trying to fix it. and I think that's why the generation before my parents have stayed together for so long, and you see these couples that have been married 40, 50, 60 years. It's because they lived in this mentality that if something's not working, you fix it, you get to the problem, and you don't discard it. So I think that's something that I've always grown up wanting to have in my marriage with whoever my future spouse was going to be, which is Mary right here. I remember growing up as a kid thinking, if something in my marriage ever was not working, or if something was wrong, I would want to fix it. I would want to do everything I could to make this work. And if my future spouse hurt me, or if I hurt her, then we're going to try and seek forgiveness in that and healing, rather than discarding the relationship. So I think
The fourth habit of happiness is asking our spouse for what we need. It sometimes happens in marriage that we are reluctant to actually ask our spouse for help, and instead assume that he or she should know us well enough to read our minds, or pick up on our tone of voice, or otherwise figure out what we need. When we have the humility to ask our spouse for help, we acknowledge that we are a team, and that 2 heads, 2 hearts, and 2 sets of hands are better than one. For example, you are much better than I am at organizing things. Would you please give me a hand for about half an hour? When we communicate confidence that our spouse is willing and able to assist us in matters large and small, our sense of being real partners in the great adventure of marriage grows and matures.
Another way that we tell our beloved what we need is when we offer a complaint. Complaints are actually very helpful in marriage because they provide our spouse with concrete feedback. Criticism, however, can be very destructive. A complaint focuses on our spouse's behavior and respectfully requests a change, while criticism focuses on the person's motivation or character and gives the impression that he or she will never change. To make sure that you are offering complaints rather than criticism, keep these steps in mind. First, point to the last time the objectionable behavior happened. Secondly, share with your spouse how the behavior made you feel and why. Third, ask for the specific change you want with a pleasant facial expression and a friendly tone of voice. For example, let's say that your spouse has a tendency to run late without letting you know. You could offer a complaint like this: "When you run late without letting me know, I worry you may have been in an accident. Please call or text me if you are running more than a few minutes late."
Fully too, for me to know John and to know what he needs, he has to tell me. I can't assume that I know what he needs, and he can't assume that he knows. Mm-hmm. As much as the unasked for acts of love are really appreciated.
Yeah, even after 5 years of marriage, we're still not mind readers, which is something that is important to remember, that the best way to foster understanding is to reach out and for me to tell Claire, this is what I need, or for Claire to tell me, this is what I need, and then we can go from there. I think earlier in our relationship, it would be easy to just think, can't she see can't she see that I'm exhausted? Can't she understand that I really need this or that? We were at a point where it was, we'd known each other for a few years, and there's kind of this sense that surely you know me well enough by now to realize that, this is what I would need in a given situation. But that's just not how it works.
If we practice these 4 habits of happiness in marriage, asking our beloved for what we need, saying we are sorry sincerely and quickly, thanking him or her for all they do for us, and expressing our praise and admiration, we will slowly but surely develop that definitive love, that second wine, which is more wonderful than the first. And day by day, taste the happiness that God so deeply desires for us in marriage.